Good evening and welcome to Portable C at Leander ISD. We are here for another edition of Let's Talk with Superintendent Dan Troxell, joined today by our Executive Director for Elementary Education, Jennifer Collins. We apologize for our technical difficulties. We are unable to be streaming live on Facebook. We will post it after the fact on Facebook Live. We are live on YouTube or Twitter, which you probably know because you're probably watching us on YouTube or Twitter right now. So please feel free to continue to go onto those platforms and ask questions along the way. And with that, I'd like to kick it over to our superintendent and Miss Jennifer Collins.
Well, Corey, thank you so much, and welcome to the audience to another edition of Let's Talk. It's always a good time to get together and focus on different topics of the week. So, Jennifer, let's start with telling the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do in your position as Executive Director over our elementary curriculum.
Sure. So this is my 15th year in Leander ISD. Before coming to Leander, I was in several other districts, but I'm super excited to be here in Leander. I've been a part of the teaching and learning team here in Leander all 15 years. Worked a little bit in the reading team for a while, worked with our dyslexia teachers and our reading specialists, and now I get to work with all of elementary curriculum, supporting principals, supporting instructional coaches, assistant principals with teaching and learning.
And what grades did you teach?
I taught 5, 6, 7, and 8, so mostly middle school.
So you can certainly relate to the discussion we're going to have today about elementary and how it impacts kids moving into middle school and eventually to high school. But let's start with our youngest learners, some of our youngest in the district, and that's our kindergartners. We're doing our kindergarten roundup at this time. And you know, it's an exciting time for many families, for students going off to public schools, many for the first time. And talk a little bit about how that process works here in Leander ISD.
Sure. So today actually kicked off our kindergarten registration, kindergarten and pre-K registration. So half of our elementary campuses hosted registration today. Half of them will host it tomorrow. You can go on the Leander ISD webpage to find out which campuses are hosting on which day. But it's super exciting. The campuses are open from 7:30 in the morning until 6:30 in the evening, and parents can come in and take care of all of the paperwork and things that they need to do to get their child officially registered for kindergarten.
I know I was at Parkside last year when we were doing our kindergarten and pre-K registration, and I saw they actually had signing day for the kindergartners, very much like students do when they go off to college. And parents, we want to encourage you to get up and get to the schools and register as soon as you possibly can, because we want to get those numbers so we have the right teachers assigned by campuses so the kids are ready to be welcomed by a smiling face and wonderful kindergarten teachers. I'm always so impressed by our kindergarten teachers. I think it's an amazing thing to have 22 children at that age in a classroom at one time.
Right. Well, and I would say that what's unique about the way that Leander does pre-K and kinder registration is that parents can actually register on any campus in the district. So if I live in one area of the district, but I work in another area of the district, I can actually register on any campus in the district. Today actually just kicks off the registration process, so beginning today you can register anytime.
That's fantastic, and that's good for our parents, particularly those who live and work in different places. You know, you may live in Leander but work in Austin, and we have some schools that are closer in, so take advantage of that. And then if you want to have an opportunity to go visit your home campus and actually tour through, we'll be happy to accommodate that as well. Let's talk a little bit about kindergarten itself. You know, it's changed a little bit from when I was in kindergarten. What does a typical day in kindergarten look like in Leander ISD?
So kindergarten is a full day program here in Leander ISD. We begin school every morning at 7:45. And those kids are often running with learning at the very beginning of the day. Children spend a big part of their learning day engaged in reading and writing and mathematics types of activities. Kindergarten is very hands-on. We believe that children learn to read by reading and write by writing, so there's lots of reading and writing happening in the classrooms. Science and social studies is a big part of our curriculum as well in kindergarten, and then students have an opportunity to rotate through some specials rotations as well, so they have opportunities for visual arts, learning, performing arts opportunities. They get to go through the library. They have PE every other day in kindergarten, so it's just a really exciting time for our kids.
It is. There's still a lot of play in kindergarten,
yes.
and we think that's critically important, and learning through play is critical for young minds to develop.
Yes.
And I'm so impressed with the fact that we have a lot of hands-on activities. Talk a little bit about science at the elementary level, particularly as it relates to a kindergarten classroom.
So I was able to be in a kindergarten classroom just a couple of weeks ago during a science lesson, and the children had paper plates In the center of the table and in the middle of the table were worms, and then in another corner of the room were snails. And so those kindergarten students were, little of them were hesitant to touch the worms, where others were just anxious to pick them up and hand them around the room. They were studying the structure and function of the body parts between a snail and a worm, and why does a snail look the way it does, and why does a worm look the way that it does. And it's really sophisticated conversation that those kids are having, but they're having a great time at the same time. Another fun thing they do with snails is, I think you've seen before, the snail races that they do. And so they put a target in the center of a table and put snails on the outside of the target to see which one would make it to the center. So it's super fun for our kids.
And they get really excited about that, rooting for their snail. And it's, again, that joy of learning, the joy of just coming to school every day and getting new information and getting that information taught in a manner that gets you engaged and active and moving about. I think it's absolutely magical